the many uses of QR codes in the modern economy. Hello again, everyone. I'm Jeff, and you are listening to Plain English, where we help you upgrade your English with current events and trending topics. This is lesson 427, and JR has uploaded the full lesson to plainenglish.com/427. Coming up today, you're not dreaming. QR codes are indeed everywhere. In today's lesson, we'll talk about the many uses of QR codes, ranging from train tickets to restaurant menus to COVID tests. The English expression we'll talk about is fill out, and JR has a song of the week. Let's get going. Imagine walking through a cemetery, admiring the headstones that announce who's buried below your feet. Most gravestones have only a person's name and the years they were born and died. Some have a few short words to summarize an entire life. Have you ever wondered about the lives of people buried in a cemetery? Have you ever wanted to know, what did this person do to deserve such a big headstone? Or, here's a whole family buried together. I wonder what their history is. Well, in today's modern cemeteries, you may not have to wonder any longer. That's because gravestone makers in Japan, the United States, Uruguay, and other places are providing QR codes on headstones that link to tributes, biographies, and even, this is a true example, a list of the deceased's academic publications. Since the invention of QR codes in 1994, the confusing black and white square images have popped up in many parts of daily life, or even, as we learned, death. So here, in today's lesson, we'll talk through many of the places you're seeing QR codes and how they are used. Let's start with the simplest application, opening a web page. As you learned last week, a QR code can contain any string of letters, text, and symbols. Some strings are thousands of characters long. Now, even the most complicated URLs are only a few hundred characters long, so there's no problem using QR codes to open websites in a browser. Many web addresses can be opened with the smallest kind of QR codes, micro QRs. Since the pandemic, we've seen QR codes on restaurant tables. We scan the code and open a menu. Gyms post their class schedule with QR codes instead of paper flyers. We also see QR codes on marketing posters. Scan the QR code and you will be taken directly to a special website related to the poster or advertisement. Codes can also be scanned from a screen, so you might see them on commercials on streaming services too. Marketers like these because they can track the performance of each code. For example, if a company publishes 5 marketing posters, it can put a different QR code on each. Maybe the consumer goes to the same place, but the marketers know which poster is doing well because they can track each poster's performance with custom URLs. All right, these are simple URLs, but QR codes are used for much more than just opening web pages. For example, when I traveled to Europe, I had to fill out an entry form to get into the United Kingdom. The entry form, both the printed version and the PDF, contained a QR code with all the information on the form. In theory, the airline or border control could scan the code and immediately pull up all my personal data. I scanned this QR code on my phone, and it didn't produce a URL, but a confusing string of coded text. Now, luckily, that string of numbers and text didn't make sense to me and wouldn't be useful to anyone who might find a discarded arrival form. But to anyone who has the key to the code, it contains the information needed to verify my arrival details. Plus, the COVID tests I got in Europe had QR codes on the test results. This would help authorities confirm that the paper test results I showed were legitimate. When paired with a special application, QR codes can be used for payment. This is common in China, India, and other developing countries. The simplest way to use QR codes for payment goes like this. A merchant displays a general QR code that consumers scan when they want to buy something. Then, the customer enters the payment amount and sends a payment. This is popular with Alipay in China. PayPal has recently adopted QR payments in this way. There is another more secure way to use QR codes for payments. Merchants can generate a one-time use QR code for a specific transaction. So, let's say you want to buy a coffee. The merchant generates a particular QR code just for you, just right then. You scan the code in the payment app, add a tip if necessary, and approve the payment. This connects with the payment methods already stored in your phone. Now, this is safer than handing over your credit card because your payment details are shielded from the merchant. In the days of COVID, this is also more sanitary than using your fingers to tap on a point of sale screen. QR codes are popular in transportation. In India, among other places, passengers get a QR code for their phones containing their ticket information. Ticket takers can then scan the QR code to verify the ticket. In a hybrid approach, a buyer gets a paper ticket with a QR code on it, and that code can be scanned. This is a more secure and more advanced way of ticketing. It sure beats punching a hole in the ticket, which is what they do here in the US. QR codes have been used for contact tracing in Australia, Singapore, Taiwan, China, and other countries. When you enter a crowded place like a bar or restaurant, you scan a QR code in a contact tracing app. It logs your presence in that place. If another person nearby tests positive for COVID, you will be notified and asked to take a test. Speaking of COVID tests, the European Union's digital COVID certificate tracks vaccination status, recovery status, and recent COVID testing all in one app. And, you guessed it, it's all verifiable with a QR code. All around Europe, patrons are presenting QR codes at the doors to restaurants, bars, markets, and museums. The QR codes allow the proprietors to confirm the vaccination status of European citizens. When I was in Europe, I showed my paper vaccine proof and I begged for forgiveness. A couple other uses. QR codes can help you log into streaming services on a television. This is key. There's nothing I hate more about streaming services than having to type in a secure password using a remote control. Now, services open a unique QR code that lets me log in on my phone. Good thing I have a password manager. QR codes on product labels can help consumers learn more about the nutritional content of food and its provenance. Retailers use QR codes for loyalty programs. Just scan the code at checkout and you can earn loyalty points for your purchase. QR codes are on your receipt too. Just scan the code to fill out a survey and enter to win. QR codes can be displayed on parts and boxes during the manufacturing process, helping producers know more about each piece on the factory floor. 2D barcodes are also making the mail faster and more accurate. I noticed a 2D barcode on an envelope I received from a bank. It wasn't a QR code, and my phone couldn't read the information. But mail services, including the U.S. Postal Service and the Royal Mail, encourage bulk senders to use 2D barcodes to help speed up delivery and improve accuracy. Mail services have used optical readers for a long time, but the 2D barcodes contain more information, can be read faster, and can be read much more accurately than any other type of code. So, quick question. What do the following countries all have in common? The Netherlands, Russia, Ghana, and Nigeria. What do they all have in common? They have all issued currency featuring QR codes. In the Netherlands, they use the euro currency, but in 2011, the Royal Dutch Mint produced special €5 and €10 coins, official currency, with QR codes printed on them. In Nigeria, they celebrated the 100th anniversary of their currency by releasing a banknote with a QR code. Now, both of these codes just opened websites with information, but it shows you that QR codes are everywhere, maybe even in your pocket. Today's lesson is already extra long. All those QR code uses, I had no idea. So we are going to have a quick expression, and that is to fill out. It's a phrasal verb with a few meanings, believe it or not, but the most common meaning is to complete a form. The most common way to use this is to fill out a form. When you fill out a form, you enter information in every box. The modern world is full of forms to fill out. When I went to Europe, I had to fill out an entry form before landing in London for my connecting flight. I had to write my name, the flight number, passport number, and dates I would be in the UK. The process of entering all that information is called filling out a form. You can fill out a survey. You might get a QR code on your receipt at a restaurant. You'll be taken to a customer satisfaction survey if you scan the code. If you fill out the survey, you'll get a coupon to save money on your next visit. When you fill out the survey, you answer the questions in the survey. You can fill out an application. If you apply for a job, you might need to fill out a job application. Most job applications ask about employment history, skills, and educational attainment. Some ask about your transportation needs, what software you've used, things like that. When you answer those questions and press submit, you are filling out the application. I don't know how it works in other countries, but here in the US, we need to voluntarily tell the government every year how much money we earned in the previous year. We have until April 15th to fill out all the necessary forms and mail them in. It's called doing your taxes or filing your taxes. It's so confusing to fill out all those forms yourself. So most people either pay a professional to do it for them, or they use private software. When using the software, you answer questions, and the software fills out the forms for you. That means that the software takes your answers to the questions and enters the information into the right places on the official government forms. The forms are too confusing for mere mortals to use, so the software fills out the forms for us. A few years back, the nominee to lead the Department of the Treasury of the United States of America, admitted it was too confusing for him to fill out the tax forms, and he used TurboTax software to do it. I don't hold it against him. I agree they're too confusing. But unfortunately, as Treasury Secretary, he didn't do anything to make the forms easier to fill out. Well, JR must have been listening on Monday because the song he picked this week is indeed a Taylor Swift song. It is All Too Well, Taylor's version. It's a song about recovering from a breakup and picking up the pieces of her life. It was initially on her fourth studio album called Red, but as you learned on Monday, she re-recorded those early albums, so there's a new version out there. Now, it was originally 10 minutes long, an eternity for a song, but the first release was only 5 minutes. So when she re-recorded the album Red, Taylor's version, she included 2 versions of All Too Well, the original 5-minute version and the unabridged 10-minute version. Well, that's all for today, Thursday, December 23rd, 2021. If you celebrate Christmas, I wish you a very Merry Christmas on Saturday. This is year number 2 of altered holiday plans for many people. I hope you can enjoy the holiday with family or good friends wherever you are. I don't know how December will play out, but in November, it seemed like the consumerist insanity of Black Friday was less intense this year. As some people I've talked to have said that since COVID, they're dialing back some of the shopping and consumerism and focusing more on simple pleasures around the holidays, something I definitely support. Well, once more, have a very Merry Christmas if you celebrate, and we'll be back on Monday for a new Plain English lesson. See you then.